all the members attending today's Baudik. Before starting, I would request all the audience to please mute their respective microphones. Not taking much time, let us start the session with Pratna by Srihas Nandamuri.
Namaste. Today I'm going to tell you about Sarvamangalamangelyam Devim Sarvatasadikam Charanyam Sarvabhutanam Namamo Bhumimataram Sachidananda Rupaya Vishwamangalahetave Vishwadharmaikamulaya Namostu Paramatmane Vishwadharma Vikasartam Prabhu Sangatitavayam Shubhamashishamasmabhyam Dehi Tatparipurtaye Ajayamatmasamadhyam Sushilam Lokapujitam Jnanam cha Dehi cha Deyamakapakashakam Samutkarshostu no Nityam Sweyasa Samanvitaha Datkam Spuratvantaha Subhira Vratamujvalam Vishwadharma Prakashena Vishwashanti Pravartake Hindu Sankatanakare Te Anishtastirastunaha Sangha Shakti Vijetriyam Krutva Smadharma Rakshanam Paramam Vaibhavam Praptum Samartastu Tavashisha Padiye Punyakaresmin Vishwakalyana Sadhake Yagaseva Kayo me patatu prabhu Vishwadharma ki jai.
Thank you very much, Srihas. Now I would thank you. Now I would like to request Srimati Anjali ji, who is our Karyakarta of VHP Germany, to say a few words about the aims and objectives of VHP. Srimati Anjali ji. Anjali ji, you're on mute.
Chandra ji. Oh, okay.
Yeah.
So, Namaskaram everyone. Vishwa Hindu Parishad was founded on 29th August of 1964 with an objective of the VHP is to organize, consolidate the Hindu society and to serve, protect the Hindu Dharma. The organization strives for educating the young Hindus about the philosophy and practice of the Hindu religion via Bala Vihas, Bala Gogulams, and seminars, conferences like what happening now. It also alertly worked to support the Hindus across the globe when in crisis. Now, I invite Srimati Maladi ji for starting on with the today's event, classroom to boardroom. Please, Maladi ji.
Thank you, Anjali ji.
Namaskaram, everyone. Thank you, Anjali ji. My name is Malati, as Anjali ji mentioned, Malati Krishnaswamy. I live in Frankfurt, Germany, and I'm an engineer entrepreneur, also a podcaster, and I'm the founder of Bogya Online, who is now collaborating with VHP to bring you this seminar on the auspicious occasion of the International Women's Day that's coming up in 3 days. I've been living in Germany for the last 20 years, and there have been a lot of challenges in my life here when I landed as the mother of 2 young kids, 1 baby. And from there to become the founder of a company and the managing director of GmbH has been a journey of many ups and downs. It's not been easy. It's not been very difficult, to put it very mildly, but it's been fun. I've been enjoying what I've been doing, but I think I would like this topic to be discussed a little more in detail with our guest, Ms. Deepika Trehan, who has so kindly agreed to be a part of this webinar. Welcome, Shri Deepika Trehan. Deepika is recognized as one of the top 100 global diversity and inclusion leaders. She's the founder and CEO of the Health of Women Forum and the Corporate Diva. Her organization delivers impactful and uniquely curated initiatives for global clients on DEI with a special focus on gender, generation, well-being, and neurodiversity. Deepika is known for her expertise in women leadership development and the human side of business. Her approach is rooted in empathy and compassion, focusing on driving results. She uses her knowledge of global statistics on the gender gap and her ability to identify, build, and nurture role models to drive meaningful change in organizations. Deepika's work is not just a tick in the DEI box, but a transformative experience that empowers individuals and organizations to create a more inclusive culture. Deepika can be followed very closely through her LinkedIn handle, in which she's known as Deepika minus Trehan. Maybe she can share that in the chat window a little later. But I would like to focus her as the CEO of Corporate Diva. What is Corporate Diva, and why did it come into existence, and what is it that they do? Now, from time immemorial, the feminine gender has been expected to physically match up to the parameters that the society defines as girl and intellectually, emotionally possess a kind of maturity that of a wise lady. And in the midst of it all, she's made to forget the woman she strived so hard all her life to be. And therefore, at Corporate Diva, beyond a girl with dreams, she believes, or her team believes, it's a woman who hustles to make those dreams come true. And at Corporate Diva, they nurture those women, enabling them to lead like a woman. As years unfold, Corporate Diva and her tribe have evolved to be something magical. It's where credible women at work come together to embark on a self growth journey. It's where they invest in their own development. It's where they learn the nuances of leadership from stalwarts. It's where the learning is not restricted to a curriculum. It's where life journeys are shared and hands on life enrichment is soaked in. It's where they establish lasting bonds. It's where they cheer and sometimes share that particular tear. It's where they stand tall as examples for the next generation, where milestones are celebrated and confidence is gained and acceptance of our vulnerable selves begins. And it's where everybody lets go of their fear of judgments. And it's where the winner does not take it all. And most importantly, it's where they experience the impact and pave a path to pay it forward. So, I mean, it's a lot of work that they do. In essence, what I really like is that they help the woman actually realize their potential and just lead like a woman. In short, as I always say in my podcast, embrace the woman in you. And that's so very important. And I'm very glad that we are celebrating the woman in us, especially VHP is doing this, celebrating the Hindu woman. So, why Hindu? I think it's kind of very special. And we will probably be discussing that in a later date. But now I would like to welcome Deepika ji and share with us how she started her life as an expat and everything else that she has to talk to us today. Welcome, Deepika ji.
Thank you so much, Malti ji and the entire team of Vishwa Hindu Parishad. I think it's my honor to be a part of this conversation today and to celebrate meaningfully the International Women's Day as well. Thank you, Malti ji, for such a warm introduction. And, while I was hearing that, a lot was going on the journey that one has traversed through in my mind, and I had goosebumps. But as you asked, tell me about your journey. How did it start as an expatriate? I think being an expat happened, as they say that, when you're busy planning it, that's when life happens. So something similar happened with me as well. I was very professionally involved in my career. And I was a very ambitious young lady who, kind of in my mind had a roadmap for myself in terms of how I want to take my career and how I want to progress professionally, and all of that. And in the middle of that is where I met my future husband, and things moved really fast. And I think in a month's time from meeting, we were already engaged and married and off to South Africa. And that's where my journey began. The initial 15 days were amazing because, from away from the hustle of work, it was just like, wow, you don't have to you don't have to rush for office. You don't have to kind of prepare projects or reports or whatever. But I think on the 15th day onwards is when I realized that I had stepped into a totally different zone. Something that I was not prepared for, because coming from the army background, my dad was serving in the Indian Armed Forces. So I was, quite okay all my childhood in terms of adaptability, but at least the foundation was that you were still within your country. Here you were in a different country with different culture, with different norms. I didn't have my work visa because things moved so fast. And that's where I realized that, I'm in a different zone. I'm in a zone that of an expatriate. And I kind of struggled to find my way, to pave my way, to understand, to adapt. And all of that happened. So that was the beginning of my journey as an expatriate, once in South Africa. And by the time 2.5 years went by in South Africa is when we made another move, and that was to Moscow. And this time, South Africa and Moscow literally are poles apart, and in every way, in weather, in culture, in language, in the, the way we lived and everything. And that was the second time when, and we lived in Moscow for 5 years. So that's how my journey as an expatriate began. Totally unaware, totally unknown, but I'll be happy to share insights on how that traversed through into being a transformational journey for my own self. Malti ji, over to you.
Sorry. Yeah. Yes, I mean, women tend to follow their spouses wherever they go. And it always is not a smooth landing. Whenever we travel back home and, at the time of landing, I always wish, it was an expert pilot sitting there and ensures a smooth landing. But anyway, oftentimes it's very rough. It's quite rough at times, jolting us almost out of our seats. But jokes apart, it's been it's always a tough journey for the woman whenever she has to kind of settle down in a new career, and then fate has to remove her from the place, of course the family also, and then she has to start all over again. But I also think that these different phases in a new place, starting once and then pause and then restart, all of this could kind of bring about a feeling of identity crisis, feeling lost in the journey, or you don't know where to start again. How did you manage that, Deepika?
I absolutely resonate with the term identity crisis, Maltiji, because, as I said, being on a career path, being out of a top, institution in India, I'd done my MBA, and then landing into a zone where you don't know what to do, you don't know who you are, you have no familiar faces around. It lands you in a zone of a huge question mark on your self-being, a huge question mark on your self-worth, a huge question mark on where do I belong? What am I doing? Am I on the right path? You feel quite lonely in that journey. You feel very vulnerable in that journey. And you feel lost. You feel, and I had my first child in South Africa. And I remember my mother could join in only just about 15 days before my delivery. And this was my first child. So, in the Indian culture, right from marriage to settling into a family to, assistance during your pregnancy and all of that, it's a very nestled kind of a environment. You're well taken care of, you're well guided, you feel a lot more secure. And you have an entire support system to fall back on. For me, it was completely walking on unknown waters. And but what I learned was that that is where the power of a community comes into place. While South Africa being a totally unknown place and unknown people, I think my husband's boss's wife, who's a Bengali, she welcomed me into the country like her own daughter, literally like her own daughter. Even to date, I'm connected with her, and and we meet often. It's been now over 20 years, but we've stayed connected because she was that anchor that I could hold on to she became my go-to person. In fact, we became so close because my husband was a much traveling person. He's in the marketing space. So while he would travel, she would call me up and, she would ask me, hey, how are you doing? Khane ko kuch chahiye hai? Kyunki nayi shaadi hui thi, khana banana bhi nahi aata tha. Apne ka dhyan rakhna bhi nahi aata tha itna. So right from that to taking me to the local markets, making me understand, connecting me with the community, connecting me with the embassy. I think that lady really had a massive role to play in my overall being in a new space. But besides that one person being by my side, there were still times where one would feel lonely. One would feel a lack of identity. And so it isn't a very nice space to be in, but it's a lot of learning as the journey unfolds, which is why I keep on telling a lot of women whom I mentor and the organization mentors as well, is that as difficult as the process may seem, and you might just feel there is absolutely no light at the end of the tunnel, you've got to somewhere entrust the process, because there is light at the end of the tunnel and you are where you belong because there is a larger plan. We may not recognize that plan when we are going through that tunnel, but when on the hindsight, when you look back, when I look back today, had those experiences not happened, I wouldn't have been the person I am today. I wouldn't have even done the work that I do today, because Corporate Diva is based on my vulnerability as a professional, where I didn't have a support system to fall back on. So the one thing I wanted to do when I came back to India was to kind of create a support system for women professionals to fall back on. So what is important is that when you're going through that phase, I know it can sound very theoretical that believe in the process, but trust you me, believe in the process mindfully, because make sure you're absorbing every piece of learning from that process, because that is what will come handy, may not immediately, but definitely in the long run. So it's been a whole series of pause, restart, even from, so when I told you we had the move from South Africa to Moscow, and then Moscow again, I had my second child, my second pregnancy there. And so finally, when we came back to India, both my kids were, the younger one was about 2 years old. The older one was 4.5 years old. And again, there was a challenge on career restart. But I can tell you, as we go along in the conversation, what are the few points that one should be mindful of in terms of um, your own growth and development and your career growth and development?
Yeah, I mean, thanks for sharing your years as early motherhood and the struggles that you went through. It's very typical of an Indian household, and that's very true. I mean, it is very important to have a community, an extended community that offers support immediately um, in times of need. I mean, at this juncture, I would like to kind of briefly introduce about Bogya Online, because we're talking about community and we're talking about culture. Bogya is a community-driven socio-cultural platform that aims to help the expat Indians here in Europe to stay connected to their roots. So what we do there is we bring various events, workshops, and classes and courses based on the Indian arts, culture, history, heritage, traditions, etc. All of these things, like Deepika ji mentioned, each one of these defines us as a person, which is very unique to our Indian culture. Like she mentioned in one of our conversations, that she reached out to a Sai group while she was at South Africa. That kind of helped Deepika ji find her foot in the right places, I should say. So maybe you want to talk a little bit about it, Deepika?
Yeah, that's also something very close to my heart, because that also played a huge role in getting me sanity in a space where I was in a total chaos. So when in South Africa, Srila, who's my godmother, she is a Sai devotee, and we would have a lot of cultural and religious meets going. So we would have Sai bhajans, we would have Satyanarayan Katha, we would have your Hanuman Ji ka Sundarkand ka part, and I come from a Punjabi Sikh family. So I didn't know anything about, a lot of the Hindu religious text part of it. But that was such a beautiful learning experience that actually by the time I walked out of South Africa, I think Monday to Saturday, I had all the chalisas lined up that I would do, chant every day on a particular day. That not only gives you a sense of grounding to your own culture, because you're so far away. We're in different times today, Malti ji. We're in times of the digital world, the WhatsApps and the FaceTimes and the Zoom calls. It doesn't really keep you that far away from home, because you can see, you can talk to your near and dear ones. But those were the times where it wasn't so digital, right? So you needed something to anchor to. And I think you can always fall back and count back on your cultural heritage to keep you grounded. And culture played such an important part, that so much so that my own God Bharai, my baby shower, was done in South Africa, but in a very traditional Indian way, with all the women of the Indian community coming together and asking me, what would you like to eat? What can we cook for you? Oh, you know what? Do this puja. This is the way it will help in the baby's development and all of that. And it felt so anchoring. It felt like a space where you could really surrender yourself to a larger power. And that's very, very comforting, especially in times where, you can have the world helping you around, but there will still be times that you will go through those downslides where you again fall trap into that negative spiral of hope everything is going to be well, because my own parents were not around at that time. But thanks to my godmother, thanks to the cultural heritage of our country, that really, really helped me, stay grounded, stay sane, have more faith and belief, and come through it stronger. I don't think it would have been so, navigatable had I not had these things to anchor myself to. So I think the cultural heritage does play a huge role in not only staying connected, but I think in our own self-growth as well.
Mm-hmm. Yes, I mean, but when women move to a new country as a family or as an individual, as a student or whatever phase in their career path they come to a totally new culture, new language, if it is in Europe, and almost no support system.
Yeah.
How in such times can women build their network and a supportive ecosystem?
Beautiful question. So while I was literally cradled in South Africa, I was thrown totally on my own in Moscow. And mind you, Moscow, you can relate to the temperatures there, because I'm sure it will be as cold in Germany as well, and the language barrier. So a couple of things that I learned from South Africa, which I applied in Moscow, resulted in an easier segue of adaptation into the new scenario. And those few tips that I'd like to share with the audience is that one is be open. Even though people are from different cultures, be open and put yourself out there for conversations. And how do you begin that? The first thing is, when you move countries, go to the Indian embassy or connect with the Indian embassy online or via email. Write them a mail telling them that you are an Indian, you're new to the country, and for them to just simply add you to their mailing list. By doing just that one thing, you kind of get into the loop of them sending out messages whenever there's a cultural gathering, whenever there is a community meet, whenever there are other things organized. So what you do is you take that first step towards meeting your known people. Second is, when I say be open, is because in Moscow, I landed up staying in an expatriate building wherein we had very few Indian expats, but we had a lot of other nationalities. So we had people from Israel, from Japan. We had some Russians staying there. We had people from the UK staying there. We had I developed friendship with a very dear friend, Pietra, who was from Germany. So you will meet a lot of people with different nationalities, but don't put a barrier in front of yourself that, oh, okay, I will only open up, or I might be only comfortable with my own nationality. Get rid of that barrier and reach out to people, because what you realize is that they are with you on your journey. They are equally away from home. They are equally distant from their culture and all of that. And you develop some long-lasting friendships. I remember there was a Japanese lady who she and I became great friends with. Now, she being a Japanese, and because she had moved to Moscow, knew very tattered Russian. I, being an Indian, I knew English and I knew Hindi, but just a few words of Russian here and there. Besides that, the two of us developed a friendship where we would, I don't know how we communicated, but through sign language, through the Atuti-Puti Russian, we communicated in such a way that we became friends. And in that friendship process, I taught her to make the biryani and she taught me to make sushi. So much so that when I went to India, I got a suit customized and tailored for her. And she went to Japan, and by then my daughter was born. So she got kimonos for my daughter from and they celebrate birthdays of a couple milestone birthdays. So all of that happened. And that happens only when you keep your, options open, when you are open to breaking barriers. So connecting with the embassy, being open to talking to people, being open to your surroundings. Today, when I talk so much about diversity, equity, inclusion, global cultures, anybody can sit in a cubicle and gain theoretical knowledge. But, we've got to realize our superpower even in our adversities. And I'm a champion of identifying opportunities in adversities, because the kind of hands-on experience that you get of interacting with people from global cultures, that is invaluable. You can't put any price tag. You can't put a degree to it, but the enrichment that happens is of a different level. You get to understand people better. For example, today I conduct sessions on cultural sensitization. Where did that come from? That came from the fact that when I was in Russia, you don't see many Russians. What I noticed was, while we Indians are all out there and a lot to talk to and everything, the Russians are reserved. They don't smile much. They don't talk much. And if they do, at that time, English wasn't that much in the ecosystem. So it was all Russian. So one developed a perception that they're not friendly. Whereas in my experience, the moment I learned, or at least started my journey on learning the local language, that's where barriers broke, right? And that's where one realized that it wasn't their not friendliness which was a problem. It was the language barrier that was a problem. You cross that barrier, they understand you can't be expert in the language overnight, but when they see the effort from your end, they make the effort to invite you into their ecosystem as well. So these are a few things that I would say, that when I said that, trust the process and be mindful about it, this is where I say that bring in the mindfulness, that how do I take the process as a process of enrichment rather than isolation, right? How does that impact your career? In a digital world that we're in today, I think there are so many avenues, right? From being a content writer to being somebody actively expressing thoughts on LinkedIn to having a voice in a digital world. There are just so many career options. You just have to have clarity on what you really want to do. If you don't have clarity, that's totally okay, because we all go through that phase of either I can't do anything or I can do it all. And I remember that, somebody told me that you've got to be clear on what you need to start. But I said, I can't. I mean, I am a fish out of water. I am, besides my professional background, I am still from one diaper onto the other diaper, from one feed onto the other feed. Where do I get clarity on? So it's okay to be in that journey where you don't have clarity. But at the same time, again, it brings back to the point of mindfulness. Just have a learning attitude, a learning mindset. Absorb everything, because when you look back is when you realize the kind of enrichment that has come into you voluntarily, involuntarily. And how do you leverage that enrichment is another story altogether.
Yes, I can totally relate to it. When I wanted to restart here, after I had, had enough time to cool down, cool my feet here, clarity was one big issue. It's like a fish out of water. You're just struggling with every other aspect of your life. And in all of that, you want to start a new career in a new land. What are some of the tips that you can share today for people who are on different stages of their career?
I think the first tip, and I think that's valid for everybody while we're talking about classroom to boardroom, the one tip which should be like the mantra is be on a continuous evolution journey. Now, what do I mean by that? What I mean by that is that make sure you are investing time, effort, energy, and a little bit of money on your own self, on your own development. Make sure that you are being a part of forums like this, wherein you are gaining some knowledge from the interactions or the sessions that come to you. These are very enriching points of interaction. And also in the process, keep upskilling yourself. So let's say if you are an HR person in India and you've been relocated and you've gone to Germany. Now, in today's digital time, with so many digital avenues available, there is nothing that should stop you from taking up a course which could enhance your skills in the HR domain by you allocating a time and allocating a time limit and dedicatedly taking that 1 hour out for yourself to complete that course, to be a part of a session, show up for the meetings that happen. Let's say like VHP would be having some meetings that would be organized, some sessions, some seminars, some get-togethers. Show up. Don't just stay back, because staying back will make you stagnant. In fact, I was in a global session yesterday, and I think one of the very key learning for my own self was that sometimes even standing makes you stagnant. You've got to keep moving. You've got to keep upskilling. Look at what the new market is all about. I think the new market is literally on your fingertips. You can write your journey, become a blogger, write your journey as an expatriate. You can take up a course on digital marketing and become a digital marketer. You can take up some in-depth upskilling on content creation, and you can become a content writer. There are so many avenues that are available today. You have to be mindful of just one thing, is that how do I keep that momentum going on? I will have challenges of the weather, of the language, of the kids, my responsibilities, no support system. And yet there were times that I was grappling with keeping my face above the water. But consistency, perseverance, and a constant thirst for evolution. How do I get better at whatever I'm doing? And it's okay, as I repeatedly say this, it's okay not to be in a state of clarity. All the more when you're not in a state of clarity, you must show up and leverage what comes your way, because somewhere, something, someday will sync up. And when you look at from a rear view perspective, you will see, oh, that is what I did, which is what helped me in what I'm doing today. I'll give you an example. I come from an HR training and development background, and I knew nothing about fundraising. But since I was in a foreign country, I had registered myself with the Indian Embassy, and I said that here are a few skills that I bring to the table. If there's anything, I'll be happy to do pro bono as well. So there was one initiative by the Indian Embassy on raising funds for HIV-affected people. And I said, I'll be happy to contribute in that. I knew nothing about it. The beauty of it was I learned what fundraising is all about. I learned how to get out of the comfort zone and talk to people. I developed a network beyond my Indian Embassy network. I met up with ambassadors and their wives of different countries. So you broaden your network. Guess what? When I came back to India and when I was looking for a project and all of that, that fundraising, which I had no monetary gain or no immediate benefit from, I got a project with Tata's on something related to fundraising. So you don't know what part of the puzzle plays what role in your life. You've just got to be mindful about just absorbing, soaking it all in, and keeping that journey of evolution.
Yeah, like you mentioned, every drop counts. So every experience matters. And we should all the time keep imbibing things in the society, whatever be the interaction. Like you mentioned, yeah, VHP has a lot of these webinars. There's going to be one next week as well, and then there's an in-person meeting the week after with panel discussion and things like that. So there are a lot of opportunities. If you're living in Frankfurt, please make use of them. And like Deepika mentioned, it would definitely make sense to become a volunteer with any of the organizations. That definitely helps. It doesn't have to be a cultural organization. If it's a cultural organization, well, it helps one make friends of their own kind. But it could also be for example, we now have the marathon coming up come spring. So that could also be a good place to start. So I mean, we are touching upon a lot of points, very valid tips. I hope you're all taking some notes. If you have any questions, please feel free to leave it in the chat window. We will take it up at the end of our conversation with Deepika. She loves to have questions from you, and she's happy to answer them for us all. Before we close, I have a couple of more questions on this. To start, for someone to restart, you just mentioned that we need to have an open mindset. We need to make the connections and have the connections work for us. But how can one break away from their shyness, or to do all of this? First, I need to get out of the comfort zone. So how exactly do I do that?
So to get out of the comfort zone, Malti, I think first you've got to be comfortable in a space, right? And in that comfortable space, हमारे culture में, I hope it's okay to speak a little bit of Hindi as well, right?
Yeah.
हमारे culture में एक शब्द है सलाह करना, right? To take inputs from people, right? And discuss it. And the second thing is, we had families where dadi, nani, masi, bhua, chachi, all relatives, you could count on for guidance. Now, and that's a comfort zone, right? Now, let's say I have moved my countries and I'm in a country where I'm out of my comfort zone. So the first thing is to settle in and, kind of, as I said earlier as well, try and meet people or whatever. You'll make a bunch of friends, or you'll meet a few people whom you may not know, but you will resonate with them in terms of, oh, you know what, I met Malti and she seems to be doing a lot of work, or I just feel very comfortable talking to her. So go forward and talk to someone like Malti, right? What I'm trying to say here is that keep your blinkers on in terms of whom do you resonate with, whom are you comfortable enough to seek guidance from, because that person just might be your first mentor, right? Mentoring is very important. And, sometimes when we talk about career and growth, we talk about always monetary gains. How do I earn from it? How do I make an income of it? And all of that. But I think a holistic career path, and I've believed it because I can say that I've walked that journey, and that's why I know a holistic career path is not always with financial gains only. I can't be baking a cake today, setting up a baking hobby and then earning income out of it if I don't have somebody whom I can discuss it, who can mentor me, who can guide me, prepare like a growth roadmap. Because now I'm talking about sustainability. I'm not talking about, okay, because I'm getting bored, cake bana liya, bech liya, ho gaya, or ek program attend kar liya, network kar liya, ho gaya. It has to be a conscious effort. It has to be, and it all starts with identifying a mentor in your ecosystem. It could be anybody. Start with that comfort zone. Once you take that one step forward is when you realize that that person opens up a million more avenues for you. It's almost like a, that chain reaction, that you meet one person, that one person introduces you to 5 more people, you start meeting those 5 people, they introduce you to 5 each in their ecosystem, and that's how you build an entire network. So I think identifying mentors in your ecosystem, in your comfort zone, is the first step to take when you're wanting to get out of your comfort zone. Because the next step is going to be, you should and you must always challenge your comfort zone. So now that you may have identified a mentor, identified somebody whom you can talk to, now start challenging yourself. What do I want to do? Where am I feeling that void? Is it some, it could be that, all right, I'm from an HR background, so I want to do something in this HR space. It could be totally different, that I've never handled. I thought I could never do finance, and maybe I just want, I develop a liking for a subject and I hone my skills on that subject. So the first step towards building a career and restarting is to identify somebody from whom you can seek guidance. Second is, I always say this, and probably it might just be a repetitive point here, show up. Show up, not just for gatherings, for meetings, for all of that, but show up. Like you said, if there's a marathon coming, come be a volunteer, right? If nothing else, you will gain experience. You will gain. I have a friend who, from volunteering outside of India, because of the similar situations, she learned how to manage events and runs a very successful event management company today, right? So again, I'm saying, do not undervalue the process. Do not undervalue the situation that you're in. and think innovatively. Don't just think, okay, marathon bhagni hai, to uske liye tickets organize karni hai, ya admin stuff karna hai, ye karna hai. Look at it from a larger picture. You are getting hands-on experience, almost free of cost, towards a skill that you are developing. Right? So be open to that. And therefore, these are ways through which you will gain clarity and confidence that, hey, I can manage an event, right? And then you build it on from there. So it's always one step at a time, one small thing, one effort. Keep making that effort and be mindful about what you're soaking in, because that's going to be something which is going to be helpful in your journey.
That's very beautifully said, Deepika ji. It's not just you show up, you speak up, and as you speak up, pick up a mentor who's going to help you establish yourself in a new place. So very valuable tips. So I think we have now come to the end of this speaker session, and we will now open it up for the Q&A. Thanks so much, Deepika, for taking your time out and sharing your valuable experience with us all here. So, yeah. So somebody in the chat window mentioned, it's Sriram. Admin, can you please unmute Sriram ji so he can ask his question?
Yeah, now participants can unmute themselves.
Okay.
Chandra ji?
Hi.
Yeah.
Shri, I'm here. Can you hear me?
Yes, please. Please go ahead.
I'll just take 2 minutes approximately. So I have some comments, a statement, and 2 questions. Okay. First comments is like some of the statements from what you've talked through resonated very well, and then it was very appropriate and very enriching to know. You said pause, restart. And also, you said you are a champion of finding opportunities in adversities, and also things like I can't do anything and I can do it all, and it's okay to be in a journey of not having a clarity. This is something which each one of us in our daily life keeps going through, and that's really nice to hear from someone like you. Okay, and I have read through your article in ceoinsightsindia.com, and there I have a question about one of your statements answering one of the questions. So the question was in the CEO Insights, what would your advice to the emerging women leaders be? You said, believe in your abilities, invest in yourself, and take open opportunities, take ownership of your development. Embrace your imperfections, strive for progress over perfection, never hesitate to embark on a learning journey. And the last statement was, version 1 is better than version ! So I did not understand what exactly that exclamatory mark stands for. Is it version 0 or version 2 or what that particular thing is? So this is my first question.
Wow, Sriramji, you've done a whole ref check on me.
Basically, I work in one of the biggest banks as vice president of human resources. So I have a very passionate interest in mentoring both inside and outside. And yeah.
No, thank you so much. It gives me immense pleasure and joy to know that, people go and read up about, your inputs and what you've shared with the world. So thank you for that. Yeah, the statement that you're talking about is version 1 is better than version 0. So it's
version 0.
Okay. Yeah, I think it would have been a typo by the editor, the editing team or whatever, I don't know. But yeah, because what happens is that what I meant to say with that statement was that any kind of progress, any kind of step forward is better than not taking that step, right? Even if you look at any facet of life, right? I remember myself, my husband taught me to make rotis. I did not know how to make rotis at that time. And I'm glad that I didn't sit in the fear that मुझे रोटी कभी बनानी आएगी नहीं. जलाई खूब सारी रोटी जलाई, खूब सारी जली हुई रोटी उनको खाने को दी और सब कुछ करा. But today, I can, literally with blindfolded, I can make rotis. It's maybe a very insignificant example. A similar example is that, people talk about, we had this recent challenge going on climbing 10 floors challenge every day. So, a set of women took up the challenge that we will climb up 10 floors just as a fitness journey. There were women who said, my God, 10 floors, I can't even think of it, my knees and whatever, the issues they had. But there were women who were putting on the WhatsApp group, I climbed 5 steps today. And there is a beautiful calculation if you can do. 1 into 0, how much does that equal to?
0.
And 1 into 0.01, how much does that equal to?
1.01.
And if you multiply that, if you multiply 0 with 365, how much does that equal to?
0.
And how much does 1.01 equal into 365 equal to?
36.5.
So you've still progressed 36.5 by taking just that 0.01% initiative and a step forward.
Wow,
right?
That's a wonderful analogy.
That's what I meant when I said that version 1 is better than version none or version 0. Every step counts.
Good, wonderful. Thank you so much for answering that one. And then one more statement. My spiritual master used to say, communication is the language of the heart. When you said that initially you could not converse with any with your Japanese colleague or someone whom you knew in that particular vicinity. Yeah, so communication is the language of heart. This is one thing. And second thing that struck me was you said you're involved into bhajans and then those kind of things. So that also I'm very much into it. I mean, basically, like we believe in Shirdi Sai as well as Sat Sai Baba, and then we're great devotees of both the forms. And with respect to the work and even otherwise, we at our organization and then even personally, I always say change is the only thing that's constant. And if you don't change, or if you move forward, as you already said, we're stagnant, and then if you're stagnant, you are extinct, as Darwin's theory and other things. Thank you so much. It was very nice speaking to you. And then it's very unfair that you people are doing it as, or organizing it as and even for women, it should be open for men also. I didn't know whether I was allowed to participate or not, but I still took a chance, and then it was very enriching. Malti and Deepika ji, it was so nice. Thank you very much.
I'm so glad, because what you've also communicated is that everybody should show up, right? Irrespective of gender or whatever. Yes, these are certain milestones to celebrate certain occasions, but thanks for showing up. And also, yes, I want to make one point on the bhajans part of it, that if you remember, I told you, I come from a Sikh family. And, growing up, bhajans were not something that we did at home. And a lot of us stay limited to that thing, that, all right, I come from a Sikh family, we don't do bhajans. Or I come from some other religion, I don't do this. I come from this religion, I don't do this. I think Hinduism is one space which allows you to explore that entire spectrum non-judgmentally. It is one space which allows you, which welcomes you to gain more. And from spirituality, you will only gain. So I'm glad that I stepped out of my comfort zone then, and I wasn't rigid about where I belonged to and all of that, because at the end of the day, we've all been born human, we'll all go human. Whatever is in between is a journey that we have to travel. How we travel is left on to us.
Respect. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Interesting question and observations, Sri Ramji. Thank you so much for that, and lovely explanations, Deepika, for that. Thank you. I think we now have Rahul Narayan.
Suman ji.
Yeah.
Hello. Thank you, Deepika ji, for all the nice, insightful tips that you gave today. I have a question regarding how do we ladies establish an executive presence, especially in a boardroom full of men in a tech industry where it's very common to have more men than women?
Yeah.
And given
Very
that we
valid
also have
question.
like, if you are talking about like me, people like me who lives abroad, like there is cultural difference, there is language barriers and so on.
Possible to see you? I'd love to see you. Can we have a highlight of the video on her so I get to know her name? I can't see her.
He's Suman Narayan.
So I'm actually, my name is Suman. I work in medtech industry and I'm wife of Rahul Narayan.
Thanks, Suman. Lovely question. Very valid question. Executive presence, I think the one thing that I have learned through this entire trajectory of ups and downs and sense of no identity to sense of full identity has been that if there is one thing that will keep you and make you stand out in a boardroom full of, no matter whatever space full of whatever genders or whatever, is your own authenticity. Once you are, and that's where Sriramji also pointed out about the fact that I made on the imperfections part of it. We women in particular, we try too hard to be 120% ready before we take on anything on ourselves. We kind of perfectionists by nature. And I'm saying it in a generic this thing because that's been my experience now interacting with, I don't know, thousands of women across the globe. We are too harsh on ourselves that this has to be 120%. I should be prepared for it, or it should have been done 120%. Only then will I speak up about it, or only then will I even raise my hand a little bit. But executive presence begins with owning your own authenticity unapologetically, owning your imperfections unapologetically. First is to gather courage to have that voice. You've got to first respect that voice that's inside you, which we keep muted for a long times in our time of our life. Respect that voice it out, own it, even if you make a mistake. I've often seen women stay quiet because there'll be a question running in their head, but they will be very unsure whether, oh, what will others say if this question is a stupid question, or if it doesn't make sense, or if I don't pronounce something properly or whatever. Let go of those self-limiting barriers. Nobody is perfect in the world. You look at nature, Mother Nature itself, no one leaf is a clone of the other. No one flower looks like the other. When they're not competing, why must we compete? And why must we compete so hard with our own selves? So own your authenticity, own that voice it out, make it heard, be vulnerable. It's okay to make mistakes. So if you've asked something, if you've expressed your point of view, own it. And it's okay to make a wrong point of view. I'll give you an example of one incident which has a lasting impact on me as a person in my career. When I was about in my mid-30s, early 30s then, and we had relocated back to Mumbai. And, I had taken up a project with a women leadership organization, and they wanted to do a car rally for women. Somebody connected us with somebody, and we went to the director of the Motorsports Association of India. He at that time would be about in his 70s, so almost double my age, probably more than double my age. We were discussing something, and then finally we were coming to the protocols, the ground rules that we'd like to lay for that rally. And the gentleman who was the head of the Motor Association of India said that, we can allow 4 women in the car with any one of them having a valid driving license, because obviously they've got to drive the car, and the others could be navigators or just accompanying. Everybody's saying yes to that. I was the only one And I didn't have much of a career stamp on me at that time, but I was the only one who got up and I said that, I'm sorry, but I think we should have 2 women with valid driving license. What if somebody develops motion sickness? What if the driver becomes unwell or has food poisoning or whatever? So we must have a backup. Now, everybody was looking at me as to how can this, kal ki ladki question a director kind of a thing. But I stuck to my grounds, and then that meeting got over and we didn't come to a consensus on anything. 2 days later, I get a call from the director, and he's mentored Michael Schumacher, so you can understand his seniority. He called me and said that, Deepika, I've called you to applaud you for you standing up with that observation point. I don't know how we missed it, but it's such a valid point. And I'm so glad that you put it across. And if the rally happens, when the rally happens, we will definitely keep this point as one of the clause that there should be 2 women in the vehicle with valid driving license. Now, today we talk about terms like executive presence, but I think it was all about, and it still all is about, you believing in your own self, you believing in your authentic self without the fear of your own judgment. Right? So I think that's what I would want to kind of share with you on executive presence, is that don't worry if it's a board full of men, of people of different race or culture or whatever. You are who you are very uniquely. You come with your own journey. You come with your own set of expertise. You're open to learning. You're open to making mistakes, but you're also open to expressing your presence unapologetically.
Thank you, Deepika ji. Thank you so much for the nice examples. And I will accept that also the ladies that I have met, they would also like to be 200% sure before they speak up. Very valid point. Thank you.
Pleasure.
Next, we have Payal.
Yeah, Deepika ji, thank you. It was lovely listening to you. And I have 2 questions, actually. First is that what brought you back to India? Was it a conscious choice of giving back to your home country? And the second one is that we come from a lot of social conditioning where we are either in the good girl syndrome or we are in the bitch syndrome. So how do we get conscious of the fact that, I'm not there to please anyone here. I'm there on my own journey. And that is applicable both for your work life as well as your home life, where you learn how to make boundaries and be firm on those boundaries and live your life on your own terms. So first thing about moving back to India, and second thing about being aware of your own conditioning.
Sure. 2 lovely questions there, Payal, and thank you for those questions. First is what got us back. I think as a couple, we decided that, and it's a very individual choice, right? But as a couple, we decided that we wanted to bring up our children in our country, at least their basic foundations, their basic education. We wanted to get it done. We wanted them to have an Indian passport because I think identity is something that was close to my heart, and I wanted them to resonate with their identity and have foundations of knowing their roots. And therefore, it was a conscious call that the moment formal schooling started beginning for both of them is when we both consciously decided that we now need to take a step backwards, back home, and planned our way back home. So that is the reason why we got back to India. Your second question now. You're talking about, conditioning and of syndromes of the very good woman syndrome or the not so good woman syndrome. Yes, the society will always be judgmental. They will always try to box you under one category or the other because it's very convenient for anybody, for their own clarity, to box you. Right? You belong to category A, you tick mark on this parameter, you don't tick mark on that parameter, you are doing this right and you're not doing that right and all of that. But I think that is where you need to show up for yourself, take ownership on your decisions, because at the end of the day, the consequences of the choices that you make, you bear those consequences single-handedly. Nobody shows up to bear those consequences for you. So I always tell a lot of people that, there will be people who will say that I understand, I know where the, your shoe bites and your shoe hurts, and I know how the pain is. But you are the one who knows exactly where the shoe is biting, piercing into your skin, where exactly the pain is and where exactly is the place where the bandage is needed. If you just go by societal norms, if you just go by preset parameters of having you qualify as somebody good, bad, not so good, very helpful, not helpful, or whatever, you will remain a people pleaser and you will lose yourself for the rest of your life. And that's the toughest consequence to bear. I've been through that space. I've been through a space where everybody else, and that's how, again, Malti ji, remember we were talking about enrichment. The Health of Women Forum came into being because I was in a stage where I had tough pregnancies. Almost the second pregnancy was a life-threatening one and all of that. And I had, my wellness was totally out of the box. There were times when I visited back India, I was introduced as, she is so-and-so's wife. She wasn't so heavy before she's become heavy because of children or whatever. And that used to kill me from inside, because what happened to my name? What happened to my identity? What happened to my journey? And how did I give that away on a platter to somebody else to just judge me for my physical look or whatsoever? And I refused to take that, to bear that consequence for too long. And therefore, I learned to speak for myself. I learned to be open with my vulnerabilities. I learned to let people know that I have a journey, I have acquired sensibilities, and I will make choices basis the kind of shoe that I want to wear, the kind of chair that I want to sit on. It starts with small, tiny little choices. I'll give you another relatable example. I had totally given up upon the food that I liked as a child. Because, you're in a new ecosystem, you want to do everything for your ecosystem. So you like to make things. And plus, we women, I'm sure a lot of us can relate to, apne liye kaun banayega? But, it's too much of work just making something for yourself. But I learned, and I learned it the hard way, but I started with making that one dish for my own self, which I liked. Listening to that one song, which I always wanted to listen, but it somehow didn't match the likes of others. So I gave up on it. Doing that one thing that I've always wanted to do. That from those 5 minutes, 10 minutes, one dish, one song, to an entire traveling up that ladder of prioritization, where I didn't exist and didn't count myself at all, to topping it. I've come up that curve. And today, the motto of the Health of Women Forum is to make a woman fall in love again, this time with herself, because I've been through that self-love journey. And today I'm in a stage where I date myself every day. I don't need external validation on telling you whether I'm beautiful or I'm looking good or whatever. If it's a no makeup day for me today, be it. I do my seminars no makeup. If it's a day that I want to dress in a particular way, I got a set of clothes the other day, and I walked into an office with big earrings. Now, according to executive presence and the norms of personal branding and all of that, big earrings are not for organizations. But chuck it. I mean, I bring my skills to the table. Talk to me on my skills. If you find a void there, aapka juta mera sir, right? But beyond that, I'm not falling trap to any judgments. I'm not falling trap to any prejudices. And my physical appearance shouldn't in any way determine or even have any impact on my credibility. Talk to me, my business, talk to me what I bring to the table, and I will give you what I bring to the table. And always room for evolution. I never get onto that overconfidence zone. So that's how you navigate through those stereotypes and those biases and those boxes that you've been put into by the society. Guess what? You're the one allowing that to happen. Stop allowing it to happen. Make choices. Choices of the consequences that you will bear by yourself.
Thank you so much, Deepika ji. I really love that motto and the fact that you date yourself every day. I think that is what something we should tell ourselves every day. That we have to be our own.
Today itself or tomorrow itself, go cook that one thing that you've always wanted to eat and you enjoyed as a child, and probably you're not doing it anymore.
Right.
It starts from there. It starts from buying yourself a rose for Valentine's, right? It starts from not wearing a pink t-shirt because you don't want to be branded as a girl or a boy and a pink and a blue and all of that, right? It's totally okay. One of my mentees recently celebrated her boy's first birthday with pink as the birthday theme. She said, I don't care. I like the color pink, and if it's a boy or whatever, it's my baby. I'm going to make the choice. And she enjoyed the most in that birthday. You know, babies, 1-year-old baby would not hardly know what's going on. So she said, if the baby is not going to know what's going on, and if I'm not going to please the world, I'd rather just please myself and be happy and have those lasting memories for the rest of my life. Right?
Yeah, I remember when I first started working in Germany, I've been the kind of a person who never enjoyed wearing jeans or pants. I love my Indian clothes way too much. So when I started working here, the norm was, this was way back in 2009, 10 kind of thing. So it was still not very many Indians here. People did not know about Indians. And at that point of time, I went out in a salwar to a bank. Probably Sri Ramji would know. I went off to his bank. I was doing some English, business English. I started off as a business English language trainer here. So I went off to this group and I said, is it okay if I come in this dress? Of course, I'm going to be the only one who's like that, and the one or two odd Indians, they were all in suits. So it doesn't matter. I kind of decided that this is what makes me comfortable. This is what I like about me. So why not? So yeah, I could very well resonate with that, and own your choices. Absolutely. There's this question from Rahul Narayan has raised his hand. So I'd like to ask. So you need to first come on camera.
I'm really sorry.
You're not allowed to ask.
I'm really sorry. I'm not actually wearing my Superwoman dress on, so I can't switch on the camera. I apologize for that. But
Rahulji, we just spoke about owning your vulnerabilities. Just show up.
But this is a technical issue because my camera is not working. So, so getting back to the point, you talked about how spirituality and how Hindu rituals and culture helped you, getting used to the environment that you were in and getting having that connection and all those things. So my question to you is, was this that your personal experience only, or now that because you're training, do you see that among other people also, as in it's a common trend? And could you add a little bit more to it, like for a person or for a lady who's not been too much into these rituals and culture, all those things, what can they do to start the process?
So, lovely question. See, I'm not a believer of trends or trolls, right? They just happen because of social media. But what I'm a believer of is that do what does you good. As simple as that. Do I follow every practice that I learned at that time? No, I don't. Not today. Did I then? Yes, I did. Did anybody force me to do it or not to do it? Nobody forced me to do it. Nobody forced me not to do it. How did it help me? It helped me for my own sanity. How did it help me for my own sanity? Was, we all know South Africa, and it's not a very safe space to be in, right? And you, as an individual, are away from home, are away from a support system. You have nobody to rely on in terms of emergency or whatever. And you set yourself on a path to surrender yourself to a larger power, which in turn gives you a lot of power. So I remember we were just about 3 weeks into South Africa, and there was a very, very, very tragic incident that had happened that had shaken the entire country. And it was a security safety issue, and of 3 women, a mother, a grandmother, and a 7-year-old girl. And they were traveling back home from the 7-year-old's birthday. And there was a very tragic incident that happened with them on women's safety. And that moved me as well. Whom did I have to anchor onto? I had my Gayatri Mantra to anchor onto. You won't believe, when we would start, not that we stopped socializing or whatever, but when we would start from home, my jap of Gayatri Mantra would start. We would reach the destination. I would stop the jap, just fold my hands and say, thank you for making me reach here safely. And as soon as we would start from there, it would be late night. Joburg is not a place which is a safe place. Not it wasn't then. I can't comment about it right now. My jap of Gayatri Mantra would start again. I would reach home and again fold my hands to just express gratitude before I go to sleep. What did that Gayatri Mantra do? That Gayatri Mantra was no magic potion. That Gayatri Mantra was just a thing to anchor onto, to surrender onto a larger power, which in turn made me feel that I have some hand above my head. I could not identify which hand above my head, but it gave me a sense that there was a hand above my head, above our head as a family. So what I'm trying to say here, Rahulji, I don't know if it's directly answering your question or not, but what I'm trying to say is that sometimes you don't do everything in a very calculative manner. Sometimes you just go with the flow. Sometimes you do it in a way for just self-protection. But what is important is be open to doing. It could be religious, it could be spiritual, it could be intellectual, it could be emotional, it could be physical, whatever way. Be open to embracing more diversity. Don't be rigid in your path, because the more you believe in good, the more good you happens to you or not, I don't know, but the more protected you feel, because your conscience becomes clearer and clearer. And that's what I would want to say, that I'm not a propagator of religious beliefs or spiritual beliefs or any particular direction of beliefs or whatever, but I'm definitely a propagator of the fact that I, through my personal journey, believe there is a larger power. And I think ना किस्मत पे जोर है ना वक्त पे जोर है, कर्म पे जोर है. So अपने कर्म अच्छे करते जाओ, अपने कर्म सच्चे दिल से करते जाओ, भगवान को याद सच्चे दिल से करो. और उसके लिए जरूरी नहीं है कि आपको एक ही फॉर्म में याद करना होगा. Just I think just going before 5 minutes going to bed and just closing your eyes and just saying thank you for all that you're doing for me, God. I think that pure sense of gratitude is enough as a ritual, as a puja, as a religious belief. So I hope that answers your question.
Yes, so much. Thank you. I really appreciate it. Thank you.
Yeah, it's been an amazing session of close to an hour and a half now. Yeah, as they say in German, leider. Unfortunately, we have to say goodbye. But before we go, Deepika ji, is there any way you can help help the audience here with a structured program on career restart?
Yeah, definitely. Through the Corporate Diva platform, if you wish so, Malti ji, with collaboration with Hindu Vishwa Parishad as well as Bhogya or any which ways, if there is a need to help women in particular bounce back, release that stop or pause button and restart, there is something that we already do, which is on career restart. We say that, revisit the diva in you. And I tell you, the word diva has been very close to my heart, because to me, diva has always been a feeling. It's a feeling that I think every woman should carry for what she does and the way she hustles in her life, irrespective of her professional or social standing. but I think every woman hustles. And I'm not negating the importance of men. My approach, my organization's approach is a very inclusive approach, because akele kuch nahi mukammal hoga. You know, we're just going to be in that whole bubble of solid feminism, of solid patriarchy or whatever, and we'll be forever on gender wars. It will be a walk hand in hand. But I truly believe, out of my own experiences, that if men have their buckets full with responsibilities, we women have our buckets overflowing with responsibilities. And that's the only difference. And to assist women to tap into the power of self, to navigate through that overflowing and give life a direction, is where, I believe every woman is a diva. Challenges come every time, every now and then. In fact, the word corporate diva, I had my mentors who said that, why don't you change the name? The diva looks like a pageant and all of that. There were times that when I was, and it's been a single-handed journey, there were times where I was in the organization scheduled to meet with the HR head. The assistant of the HR head itself said, "Oh, diva, no, madam, we don't want ramp walks in the office, so you can go." And I remembered once that there was this one organization who didn't even listen to me about what I was talking about when I was talking about corporate diva. And I was shown the door. That's where I say perseverance comes into place. 6 years later, of course, people change in an organization. 6 years later, the same organization came to me and they said that, "Ma'am, we want your organization to curate a women leadership development program for us. And ma'am, can we do it in a way where the brand value of it is similar to corporate diva?" That's the biggest badge I have earned in my life, Malti ji. So therefore, when you talk about career restarts, you can have the whole technical growth map in place, but if you're not touching women at a place of their self-confidence, their self-belief, and overcoming the imposter, it'll all remain very theoretical in nature. So we'll be happy to curate something for women, after a deep understanding of the challenges that that are unique to them. And there definitely is a structure, is a way out. Though it will be a lot from the heart, it will not be much technical in nature.
Yeah, that's very nice to hear. I would certainly get in touch with you to see how we can work together on this, Deepika ji. I'm really amazed by all the experiences, the tips that you have shared. I think that these have been very valuable for the participants who are here and also for the people who are listening via YouTube. So thank you so much. With this, I hand over back to Sangeeta ji.
Thank you, Malti.
Thank you.
I think so. Meera ji had raised her hands. If she has any questions, she can ask.
Yes, hello Deepika ji and Malati ji. I have raised my hand. I will definitely like to ask. But first of all, thank you both of you for sharing your achievement. Today I have done little self-care, putting oil in my head. So that's why I'm not turning my cam. I hope you understand.
Completely respected. Completely respect your choices. No worries.
Okay.
Go ahead.
My little question is that I'm a new expat in Germany, and I was working as a teacher in India. And is it really the language to learn a new language or to adapt a new language to move on a profession, or language is not a barrier?
That's a good question, Meeraji. But if you've just moved into a country, one is you have to have clarity in terms of how would you want to pursue your teaching profession? Because in a digital world today, you needn't need to learn the language, a foreign language. You can continue with your language of comfort and yet be on digital platforms where you can impart knowledge, right? So you have certain ed startups or ed tech companies that will be looking for teachers or coaches or whatever your area of expertise is, and you could kind of just see what is needed by them for you to qualify to work with them. my one request is going to be, please do not just load yourself with the need for commercials and finances right from the word go. Give yourself some time. Do a lot of pro bono initiatives for the others to realize the value that you bring. Because the moment you are able to make the others realize the value that you impart, the commercials follow, right? That is one thing. Having said that, if you want to pursue something in Germany, in the teaching respect, I think Malti is going to be in a better situation to guide you whether the language is needed or not. But I think as per my experience, I can say that if there's something that you'd like to do for the Indian Embassy and the of Indian community there, I don't think learning the new language is needed. But if you want to extend and leverage on the experience of being in a foreign land to learn a foreign language and converse in that foreign language with the locals there, which is going to be beneficial for you, go all out and learn the language. So have a self-talk, see what resonates with you, and make the choice basis what resonates with you and follow that path. There is no one size fits it all answer. Meera ji, I hope that was helpful.
So yeah, I think we don't have any more questions. So thank you very much, Deepika ji and Malati ji, for such a wonderful and interactive session, for sharing all the insights and experiences, and also clarifying all the doubts. So now we have our senior most Karyakarta, Srimati Seema ji, who will give the vote of thanks. Seema ji?
Yeah, good afternoon, and thank you, Deepika ji, so much. My God, wonderful listening to you and hearing your experiences and ups and downs, and very, very inspiring, I must say. And as everybody's saying, and enjoyed your talk and all. So, and Malati ji, you also, thank you so much for organizing this and taking us your valuable time and giving us wonderful tips, valuable tips and mantras, and how the journey in the foreign country can proceed and learn and open your doors to the language naturally, number one, and meeting with social stands like Mandir Bhajans, like you said. And it's a great platform where you can get in touch with your community and learning the language then outside with the local community. So thank you very much. Thank you everybody for joining us, and hope to see you all next time very soon.
Thank you, Seema ji. It was a pleasure being here. Thank you, Malti ji, for getting me onto the forum, and thank you, Team VHP, for having me here to have this wonderful interaction. And thank you to the audience for such candid and beautiful questions that you bounced. It was my pleasure interacting.
So yeah. So before closing our today's session, I will take the opportunity to thank our special guests, Srimati Deepika ji and Srimati Malati ji, and all our distinguished members for attending today's Baudik and making it successful. And before winding, I have one announcement. We have the next webinar on 12th of March around 3:30. So it would be great if you guys join in. And before winding up, we will chant Om 3 times and then disperse. Namaskar. Thank you, everyone.